Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Garces, Stoney, owner of Garces Law Firm. Welcome back to Pink Mike. It's been a while, so want to make sure you guys know what we're talking about today. I have a wonderful guest. You're going to love to hear what she has to say. But today's episode is primarily focusing on women in business, how belonging to a community of fellow entrepreneurs can really help grow your business, which I love talking about this topic because I think a lot of us read about it, but to see it in real time, it's really different. So I love to just kind of talk about this, and we have the best person to explain a little bit more about what that means for most of us. Our guest today is Maura Mitchell. She's the managing director of the entrepreneurial programs and services with the Women's Business Development Center. Am I saying that right? The
Yeah.
WBDC. I know I always say that wrong. So we're going to hear a little bit more about her and really in general, the reason we're doing this segment in particular is first of all, the WBDC is instrumental to helping a lot of women entrepreneurs, specifically those that have in the process of launching or have an existing business. So that's really great. The number of women-owned businesses in general are now climbing. I think that's a known statistics. And success rates really still continue to kind of be staggering, and they're not where they need to be. So really today we're going to talk about what Maura has to say about that. What are some of the resources that are available, specifically with the Illinois Women's Business Development Center, which has a great amount of resources and experts to really help you with this. So to discuss all the programs available and where to access them, you're going to hear more about that shortly. But for those of you that don't know me, my name is Stephanie Garces Stoney. I'm the owner of Garces Law Firm here in Palatine, Illinois, where we help individuals and couples prepare for the unexpected and also establish and protect their legacy. And building wealth and being a female business owner really comes with its unique set of challenges. So I love talking about this. And my good friend Maura is going to really talk about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what are the challenges that we face, and how belonging to community, particularly a fellow entrepreneur, can really be instrumental to other women and helping their business grow. So Maura, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so grateful to have you here, and I'm just so delighted that we've been talking about this for a long time, but you're finally coming on. So I'm just so excited. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know we've known each other for a long time, but you have a tremendous amount of knowledge. And so I really want your expertise to be shared with our viewers. So please, without further ado, Maura, please let us know a little bit more about you.
Okay, thanks so much, Stephanie. I'm so happy to be here. So as Stephanie said, I'm Maura Mitchell. I am the Managing Director of Entrepreneurial Services at the Women's Business Development Center. I've been there over 4.5 years now. I've served over 2,000, mostly women. We have about 15% men come to see the Women's Business Development Center. I'm also the director of an Illinois SBDC at the Women's Business Development Center. And because we get grant funding, we get to offer free one-on-one advising sessions. My specialty is really helping people go from an idea, do their primary market research, and then launch. That's where my sweet spot lies. And I really love helping professional services clients start up because I am a lawyer. I had my own consulting firm, and I've been doing business planning for small businesses for over 20 years. I really love helping people do their primary market research, and we say help them get out of the building to go talk to possible clients about what they should be focused on and where there's a market need. Really, the number one reason for startup failure, for small business failure, is that there's a lack of market need. So I always encourage people to get out and talk to others about what you want to do and make sure that you are solving a problem that the market has. Make sure you're going to solve someone's pains and help them make some gains. So that's me. The Women's Business Development Center has been around since 1986. We have a whole slew of individuals that do advising, and we have different areas that we help out in. We help in access to capital, access to contracts, and then access to connections. My team's really under the access to connections, and that's what we're talking about today.
So I love that. I love that. Thank you, Maura. Well, I love that you said connections, and actually thank you for highlighting the amount of like kind of statistically what fails and how, and we'll talk a lot about that. I mean, I think I personally know a lot of people that have started businesses. I think a lot of entrepreneurs start a business and eventually it fails, or there's a low point where they don't really know if this is going to be sustainable long term. So I thank you so much for joining us and telling us about that. So we're going to dive in. So for social media mavens that are out there, we're going to do hashtag women in business, or WIB, which is one of the hashtags if you're watching, to hashtag this when you're reposting it, to try to kind of get other people to view this. It's really important. I think when we think about social media and the power of it, this is the kind of stuff that people really want to know. And I think people are afraid to kind of go outside their comfort zone. Like you said, leave your desk, leave your office to like find the resources. So there's a lot of great information in here. So please share it if you can. Just a quick recap really quick before we continue to dive in from our last episode. We actually started with numbers on our last episode. Maura, and if you get a chance, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's really good. We talked a lot about like businesses in general. And while a number of these businesses are owned by women, even though it's higher than ever, the success rate is where it's kind of falling. So it's interesting because I think a lot of people that are women are starting, but a lot of us are having trouble sustaining and longevity. So business longevity, I think the statistic that I had is like less than 2% of female founders break the $1 million revenue mark, which I think is telling, because there's plenty of people that break the $1 million mark, but only 2% or less than 2% really is the mark for that. So that seems extremely low. Same with the other statistic that we had found. We said that less than, I think it's 18% of individuals that are women that have their own business pass a 6-figure mark, which is also really crazy. As far as funding, one of the things that we found is that out of all venture capital funding, less than 7% is invested in women-owned businesses, which is really a shame, because that just seems extremely low to me. And it's like, wow, it really hits home when I see that. Also, I think it was only 20%, I think, of newly funded companies have a female founder. So that's really not a lot.
No.
And it really isn't. And the other thing we found is regarding motivation and goals, 58% of women entrepreneurs started a business so that they can have more control over their schedule, especially as things change over time for a lot of us, different needs, different directions that we're taking. And 24%, I think, wanted to start a business that could have really just passed it on to their family, which we talk a lot about, like legacy planning, stuff like that. So I think the intention is there. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Maura, but isn't that pretty shocking?
Yes, all those numbers are shocking. And access to capital is really the least favorite part of my job and my role advising people, because it's so difficult to get access to capital, especially for women. I mean, you have to almost get it from friends and family. And if you're from a low-income community, there's such a low chance of survival. It really makes me sad. The other thing is, it's interesting that women want to start a business to have control over their schedule. And I think you have more control over your schedule, but you really become, people always say, oh, I don't want to work for anyone. I don't want a boss, but you become the boss. You become, your clients become your boss. Your suppliers become your boss. You get a few more bosses than you did in a full-time job when you're running your own business.
Well, and not to mention too, that people don't realize, like, running a business is not 9 to 5. Running a business is like every day, all day. It's your life.
Yes.
I mean, I do agree, like having to start a business to have control over your schedule is definitely a perk. To just be able to take off a day because you need to for personal reasons is okay, instead of like having to ask somebody. But yeah, I love that what you talk about, the capital being ventures being very difficult, and capital and funding is just, it's like I think it's almost I don't know what the word is. There's some irony in the fact that, like, we find it hard. Also, people that are in disadvantaged communities have it even harder. And if you're a woman, it's just kind of like you always feel like you're like one step behind. So who's actually getting this money then, Maura? Maybe you know, like, who's getting it?
I do not know. It's so difficult because you have to have, well, first of all, a traditional bank won't lend to you until you've been in business for 2 or 3 years. But how do you get to be in business 2 or 3 years without any capital?
No, absolutely.
So there's a program called Kiva that's interesting because you can get a Kiva loan. It is a loan, so it's not a grant, but you can get it by having followers or having advocates. But again, you have to have a network behind you. And once you come up with 25 people that follow you, then you can be put on the Kiva platform and the whole world can then invest in you or give you a loan. So that's one area where I found people can get access to capital, but otherwise it is, doing your projections, making sure you have another stream of income. Usually banks want you to be earning money somewhere else. So they almost want you to have this be a side gig. So yeah, it is not a good situation.
Well, and I'm starting to wonder too that, is it bigger than what we think? We think we know everything to the extent of like studies and stuff, but what is actually the problem is what I always think.
Yeah.
Like, is it like, I always think back like for school, like school never taught you about like how to build up capital for a business. I mean, those are things you don't know. And for most of us, being an entrepreneur is not what we always dreamed of since we were kids. You just kind of land here and hope that you can figure it out along the way, So that's really what it's about. So kind of segueing into the second section about the importance of community. I mean, for me, I know this has been instrumental to kind of really understanding your position and your platform as an entrepreneur, some of the things you can do during your lifetime in these positions. But having a place to be vulnerable and sharing challenges and asking questions. I wanted to kind of dive into this as one of the topics because as we all know, entrepreneurship can be very difficult at times and it can be quite lonely, especially as you get, I think because as you grow in entrepreneurship and you become more successful, you have more people supporting you, but you also have people that may not be as supportive. So keeping a tight community to really encourage you is a good way to do that. And I feel like for women, I mean, most of us, I think, we have friends and whatnot, but what are some of the things that you think about more when you think about building a community? I mean, so many of our colleagues and women's colleagues go through a similar phase if they're entrepreneurs, but how do you build a sense of community? How do you actually find that? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, as far as being vulnerable, you almost need a mentor or a mentee, someone to bounce your ideas off, because depending on your personality, maybe people can be vulnerable in a big workshop. But as far as being vulnerable, I would suggest getting a mentor. If, again, that's money coming out of your pocket, but it is a good way to, it's like a therapy for your business and someone to guide you along the way. But then if you don't have the money, there are always, join a free, now we're doing webinars because of COVID, but they'll be opening up soon. Join a free webinar. There are so many. I know at the Women's Business Development Center, we have almost one every week. And by, putting questions in the chat or, taking note of who else is in the room and asking them for their email address, it is reaching outside of your comfort zone. There are also ways you can do it. You can join the National Association of Women Business Owners, and they have events. You can join an association. So for example, there's an association for physical therapists. There's an association for e-commerce retailers. So there are different associations. You do have to join again and pay a fee, but once you do, then you're in a community of like-minded people. You also can look for, something as simple as a meetup and go to a meetup that's for small business owners. And maybe you're not meeting people that are doing the same type of work, but you'd be surprised at what you can discover when you meet someone who's different.
Yeah, and you know what? I love that you said that last part is very important because I feel like for many years, I thought a mentor is someone that you look up to, someone that's very familiar with what you're doing. But I have found that the most instrumental people, I guess, in entrepreneurship that can really help elevate and take your business to the next level, sometimes are people that like started something completely different than what you're doing. Maybe they started a flower shop. I knew someone that started like a very successful like HVAC company that I was like, wow, like, so That's what I mean, and you're right, Maura. I mean, I think along the way, you start to meet people like-minded individuals that can kind of help you along the way. So like as your business grows, we as entrepreneurs need to evolve. And so do you think this is also a good way to like build your network, like by kind of by sharing your goals with and dreams with others and your ideas? Because I think it also creates like a level of accountability. What do you think?
Yes, I think so. I do encourage people to get an accountability partner. That's what I kind of act as at the Women's Business Development Center, where I work with someone, we come up with some tasks together for them to achieve in the next month or so, and then we meet back again to discuss their progress on the task. So that's helpful when someone is kind of stuck and just needs a
Mhm.
little push along the way.
Yeah, yeah, and actually even I think a push is a good way to say it. Also, I've found that what the business your business development program also does is, and I think, and I speak because I've spoken with them, is they kind of make you figure out what are you really good at and what are you not so good at. And I think that's like really hard about entrepreneurship because you can't do it all. You have a forte and then you have stuff that you're not great at. And so I feel like it's a great way also to kind of expand and learn, these are the things that I really need help in, these are the things that I can do better in, and these are the things that I'm really good at and
Yeah.
I should keep doing. And that's one of the things I think that the Women's Business Development Program is instrumental in, and that they kind of make you look at yourself from the inside out, if you will. I mean, and I say this because I did a meeting with your development center, and that's how I felt. I felt like
Oh,
someone was looking in at me, and it was good because a lot of times it's hard to even reflect to that degree
right.
without help. Yeah.
I have people do their strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, kind of do an analysis, because at first you're going to have to do everything, but then you kind of have to be honest with yourself and say, I'm weak at this. I know I'm weak at marketing. I'm pretty good at numbers. So when I had my own consulting firm, I needed to find someone who would help me with marketing.
That's interesting. So at some point, so obviously like your mentorship and stuff, like at some point, do you ever think about when you're working with people at the development center, do you ever think about how do you guide someone? Because if everyone has different strengths, how do you guide them to improve on one area and keep doing what they're doing, because how do you identify it, I guess, because everyone's different. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of successful entrepreneurs that are good at one thing and not the other, but how do you assess that? Do you typically, outside of doing the questionnaire, do you typically kind of I don't know, like have an assessment? Do you get like a feeling? Do you kind of see the numbers? How do you figure this out on your end?
Yeah, usually I get a feeling by asking a number of questions, and I'll be able to tell whether they are eager to get out and talk to people, eager to sell, eager to figure out if they have a product with a market in the business world. So usually by talking to people, it is a good idea though. Now that you make me think about it, maybe a questionnaire would be another way to determine, what's next for this individual. Usually they tell me, they'll say, well, I'm stuck here. I can't figure out who my ideal client is. And then we'll work through that. And, we talk about, well, who is your favorite client that you're working with now? And let's see if we can get more of those favorite clients. And that's your ideal client.
There you go. I love that. So I think the takeaway with mentorship is like never overlook it and discount the importance of mentorship, because it seems to me that it's a pretty critical thing to have in your career, no matter what level you're at. And I think finding mentors that have basically traveled the same route, or maybe even are entrepreneurs in a totally different market, may be helpful. So, and here's a question: what happens like when and this is just a personal question, because I know a couple of people have mentioned this to me, that whoever their mentor was when they started isn't the same person, type of thing. So is it possible that mentors could change and kind of maybe you outgrew them, or you went another direction and you want to seek different type of mentors depending on your goals? Does that ever happen?
Yes. In fact, right now that's happening to me. I have a mentor who um, is an established women business owner, and she's been around for a long time, and she is beneficial for some areas of my career. But now I just hired a woman who's younger than me and totally different. So I feel like with the two of them, I'm getting the full spectrum of assistance.
Yeah. No, that's great to know. Well, it's kind of nice for the viewers to see this because you should always be rethinking and reassessing. I personally think every year in your career poses different challenges, whether it's personal or professionally, just different challenges and pivoting, I think is okay, by what we're saying. So,
Right. It's always
so
okay.
I know. I was going to say that. Have you ever thought about expanding have you ever thought about like an entrepreneur who could maybe expand their business through like different strategic partnerships or like referral programs? Have you ever thought about that when you're kind of consulting with individuals? Is there a partnership that they should be thinking about, whether that's with a program or something locally? Like, is there a way to kind of decipher that as being advantageous?
Yes, I think that's always helpful. I do a one-page business plan with people. We work through it, and it has 9 boxes that you work through, and one of the boxes is strategic partners. Who can you think about would, complement your business? So
Mhm.
I know, Stephanie, you're really good at this, and you have realtors, right, that are part of your strategic business partners. I always recommend estate planning attorneys have a tax accountant as part of
Mhm.
their strategic partners.
And actually, financial advisors have been very important for us, for our clients, as well as a referral network for ourselves because we do estate planning. So it's interesting because I think over time I started seeing the fruits of the labor, like, and I think what you're saying about the referral partner is it's bigger than just the one group that you currently have.
Right.
Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs think, oh, I'm going to stick to the same referral, network. But correct me if I'm wrong, Maura, but I feel like you can have multiple that are strategic and
Right.
help you grow faster.
Right. I always give the example of a yoga studio owner. Maybe they could reach out to their local chiropractor and say, how can do you have
Mm.
any people you could refer to me? Or reach out to I'm thinking Illinois Bone and Joint Institute and talk to some doctors and say, before you get surgery, come to yoga. So there are always different ways you can partner with people. I did have a client. She was opening a restaurant on the south side of Chicago, and she established a partnership with a restaurant owner, so a competitor on the north side of Chicago. They were in different locales, so they didn't compete that much. But the business owner on the north side gave the woman on the south side all of his suppliers. So you never know, the names of
Wow.
suppliers. So it really helped her when she was starting her business. So you never know who's going to be a complementary partner.
I love that because that's someone who's forward thinking because that north side owner has now made a friend instead of an
Yeah.
enemy, right? And I guarantee you if somebody calls, this owner, south side owner and says, "Hey, we're going up north. Do you know of any place?" They're going to highly recommend the competitor, which is
Right.
smart.
Yep.
That's smart. That's smart businessing right there. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Well, Maura, you manage so many programs and a lot of individuals, the WBDC. And so, are there any recommendations you have about what women can do to kind of push them along their entrepreneurial journey that maybe we haven't discussed so far?
So I guess it is around testing your idea before you do start. And so what I always suggest people do is make a list of assumptions about what you believe, let's say you're passionate about this yoga studio that you want to open up. You have to get out and make sure that you're in a community where yoga is popular. You have to make sure you're in a location that's close, that's got a lot of traffic going past, so they'll come in off the street. I always just make sure people lay the proper foundation before they spend too much money on
Mhm.
their idea, on their practice, or on their yoga studio, or on their product. Go to a farmer's market if you think you have the best pizza around, and just test it before you open up a pizza joint and spend too much money on your journey.
I love that. So getting people to try the product to see if there's basically positive results. You
Right.
know, I love that because even the yoga studio is a great idea. If you think about it, as entrepreneurs, you need to know the market. So like, should we be opening a yoga studio where, you kind of do, I don't know if you want to call it a study, maybe that's not the right
Yes.
word, but perhaps, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, it reminds me of the show. Do you ever watch the show Bar Rescue? Bar Rescue talks about, okay, so this is a guy that flips or helps people failing, struggling bars to kind of
Oh,
get back into the,
interesting. Yeah.
oh, you should watch it. It's so
Yeah.
good. Shout out to anyone that watches that. John Taffer is like, he's the real boss of all that show. But anyway, so basically when you think about that show, he always sits down with the owner and shows them like the lay of the land. What is the income in this neighborhood?
Yes.
Do these people is this an active community? Is it a military community? Is it a whatever? So he looks at that before they think about their concept of what they're doing with the bar. And geographically, I think for the most part, he even considers that, are we in a good spot or like wherever they're at? So to your point, yes, I think that is a great piece of advice, because I think people do not they underestimate that part. Like, it's like, yeah, I want to be close to home just to start my business here. But is the client there? Is the perfect client in the area? Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a great point. So I just want to really quick recap for those of you that are just joining us, because there's a couple people that just jumped on. Thank you so much for watching. This is Pink Mike Legal Confessions. I'm attorney Stephanie Garces-Jonay, owner of Garces Law Firm, where we help people prepare for the unexpected, particularly parents, secure their legacy, and for their children. So today I'm here with special guest Maura Mitchell. She is the managing director of the Women Business Center Development. Basically, she really is the expert in learning, teaching and helping you learn, do entrepreneurial work. How do you actually stay in business, keep your business, start your business afloat? And all of these things are relevant to a lot of our viewers. Some of our viewers are people that work for themselves, and many of who are even thinking about it or already have an established business. But today's topic is how belonging to community, fellow entrepreneurs can really help your business, specifically women in business, hashtag WIB, hashtag women in business, for those of you hashtagging. But like I was saying, we have a lot of questions regarding these topics. And Maura, what do you think about entrepreneurial communities? I don't know if you've heard of these, but like Strategic Coach is one of them. I think EO, is another one. And there's other like paid programs. Do you think those are beneficial at all?
I think it's always dependent upon your personality. And so what I always suggest people do is see if you can sign up for a 15-minute intro session or interview people that are part of the community. Because I don't like people paying too much money to join something that they would not benefit from. So you have to do, again, some more investigative research. Reach outside your comfort zone, see if you can speak to the person who's in charge of a Strategic Coach and say, can I see a sample one-on-one session or see a sample group session before I spend money on the membership?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even meeting, if you could do like a one-time, let me show up. I know I've been part of networking groups where like if you're a visitor, you can show up as a visitor for one session and see what it's about. And I think you said it right. It really depends on your personality and if there's any success and any success stories that other people might have from that. So that's interesting. Another question that one of the audience members actually threw out at us regarding this topic is, what is the most important thing I should be focusing on in my first year as a business owner?
So you want to make sure that you have a plan. It doesn't have to be a formal business plan. I know people spend a lot of time and effort on doing their 20-page business plan, but you want some sort of plan for moving forward. And that may include, expectations for revenue. I have a number of clients who say, okay, this month I'm going to make $5,000. And then we come back and talk a month later and see if they've hit their goals. So setting a plan and goals would be the first things you focus on. Of course, this is after you've done all your market research that I've been talking about so much, making sure that there's a market already. I don't want people doing this. I don't want people in your first year checking to see if there's a market. I already want you to have that. And then make sure you set goals for yourself that are reachable but our reach goals, because you'll push yourself that way. I find a lot of people, if they're accountable and they have goals, then they do well.
Great, great. I love that. Not to mention, I think it's important what you said, come ready, because like at this point, you've already proven there's a concept or there's a problem to be solved. And you're basically saying, make sure that you have a plan. Now, kind of another question, kind of going off of that is, we were going to get a COVID question because a lot of businesses that we know have struggled during the pandemic, are still struggling because of the pandemic. So for those of people that are in transition, what is I think this is for retail business was the question that we got. So an audience member asked, my retail business was hit during COVID and I'm trying to transition online. So is there any advice or resources at the WBCD that I could take advantage of?
So we do have a marketing advisor, and he can help you with this. I just always recommend that you could just test your idea by setting up a landing page and gathering your SEO data to make sure that people are interested. I do recommend people try to have an online source of revenue. I always say diversify your revenue streams. And if you can, have a passive income stream, meaning that, maybe you could do training on the side that can be running while you're doing your one-on-one sessions. Or, you could be selling product that relates to another product that you're selling. A product that relates to your services. So you can come and visit our marketing expert for free one-on-one advice, or just start testing it. Set up a landing page, which is pretty easy to do, and test your ideas that way before you start doing. If you are doing product, I hate to see people lose a percentage of money to even Etsy or Amazon. See if you can do it yourself for a little while.
I love that. And speaking of free, can you expand a little bit more about that before I ask you the next question? Because I don't know if we said that from the beginning, but the WBCD offers free programs. Is it all of programs or only most of the programs?
All of the program. Well, we have one program, Plan for Profit, that's $99, but you can get a sliding scale fee, and that's $99 for 9 weeks.
Wow.
But most of the programs are available online right now, especially, and I think we are going to keep a major portion of them online, even as we transition to in-person programming, because we have such a wide reach when we do the online programming. Our funding is for Illinois-based programming and Illinois-based businesses. But usually, people only go to, I'm located in Chicago. Our office is in the Loop. So people won't travel from Joliet or from Aurora, but now because of the online capability, they will, or they, can join us. So we're going to keep that going.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Are there any programs available online? Which I think based on what you're saying, it sounds like there are a lot.
Yes. In fact, yesterday I met with a woman. She's going to be a subject matter expert, and she's going to have a lunch and learn with us that's free on how you can use tech to test your business idea. So similar to what I was talking about, using a landing page and measuring how many clicks and how many opens you have. We're going to have her come in July to speak. So we have different people presenting, usually once every month. And then we usually have a weekly program that's offered in different topic areas. And they're all free. The one thing we do say is for our grant, we have to report back our economic impact to the community. So we ask people that take our free webinars and our free programs to always report back to us, when they've started their business, when they've added an employee, when they've added capital, when they've gotten a loan, just so we can then tell our grantor, hey, we're really working. It's really working what we're doing out in the community, and we can continue to receive that grant.
I love that. It's fascinating to think that there's just so much at at the center, and there's so much resources specifically for women. Now, I know you mentioned at the beginning there are men that are welcome, so this is open to everyone,
Yes.
obviously. But it is called the Women's Business Center Development. But I have to be honest, it's just so fascinating to think that, and this is something that I know that you do, and you and I talked about it many times. But to me, it's fascinating that there is so much. It can be quite overwhelming. So, what do you tell those entrepreneurs, including myself, being because I've gone through something similar, where you feel overwhelmed with all these resources? Like, where do you start? What do you say to someone like that? I'm sure you get that question all the time.
I mean, I still look for resources. Just today, I attended a webinar on finding out who your ideal client is. So I think if you can zero in on the problem you're trying to solve, I know the city of Chicago has a number of free webinars every week. We have, one or two every week. It is important to narrow down what your problem is before you start, trying to throw your net out everywhere. But there's always something that's available. I mean, I would start with what your weakness is, and that's the webinar you should attend. Again, I said mine's marketing. So if I can go to a webinar, do some professional development on how to help people with marketing, I attend.
Love it. I love that. Is there anything else more that you want to share with the viewers that we didn't cover today? I know we covered a lot of ground, but is there anything specifically you want to share that we haven't gotten to yet?
I guess it is just remember to keep track of your accomplishments, because you can get bogged down in this, the things that happen today, the negative things that affect your business today, but always keep track of your accomplishments. I just worked with someone today, and she hadn't marked down that she had accomplished something. And I said, make sure you write that down, because you can always go back to that list and say, hey, I have accomplished something. I am proud of myself. I can do this. I'm worthy.
Love that. No, that's amazing. That's amazing advice, Maura. And thank you so much for everything that you've given us today. Just picking your brain and sitting here, I'm like, wow, there's a lot more that I knew, but by the time this is over that I didn't know when we started. So I really appreciate everything that you've given us today, especially your time. Where can our viewers contact you if they want to get in contact with you?
So my email address, I can put that in the chat. It's mmitchell@wbdc.org.
Perfect. Yep. And it's at the bottom of our screen too. For those of you that haven't been able to write it down yet, you can always revisit this to get Maura's information. And please take advantage of Maura and everything that she has to share. And Maura, I know you're so modest about yourself, so I'm going to brag for just a second. Maura is not only a licensed attorney, we actually have known each other for years because we went to law school together. So she is super, super bright. And she has a business degree from the University of Chicago. So I want to brag for you just for a second, because Maura is very, very qualified for what she does. And she just is so kind. And if you have any questions about anything we discussed today, please speak with Maura. She'd be delighted to speak with you. So I just had to brag about you. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do the same about you. Stephanie is such a loving, warm personality. She helped me make it through law school. I almost quit, and she made me go forward.
Somewhat of a true story, but I still think that was all your willpower. Gosh, those days are far behind us, right? So that's funny. So thank you so much again, Maura, for the kind words and for everything that you have provided to the community. And on my behalf, really thank you for being on Pink Mic. Hopefully you'll come back soon on another topic, but this one is really interesting because I think a lot of women business owners we're just trying to make it. We're trying to compete, with other people in the industry. So I just love that we use our platform to make the resources available. So thank you all for joining us for our Women in Business, How Belonging community of fellow entrepreneurs can help your business grow. You can always contact me by emailing us. You can call us, text us for any questions about our lives, about any of the legal work that we do. We are so happy to help. So again, thank you so much to all our viewers for always joining us. We always have our Pink Mic viewers that watch us, so I know who you are. I see you watching, so thank you so much. And we invite you here next week so we can discuss another topic that might be of interest to you. So as always, please share your recordings. We're here on Tuesday at 1:00. Maura, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day today. And
You too.
anything that the viewers really just need to follow up on, feel free to check back on this video anytime.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's my
You're
pleasure.
welcome. Yeah, thank you. Stay well, everyone.